We are actually going to get started in about 2 minutes. We have a few more families that are making their way into the KPAC, so we are giving you a 2-minute warning. We're going to get started in 2 minutes. And I am the proud principal at John F. Kennedy High School. This is my second year here, and I am incredibly excited to be with you tonight because we are introducing you to Anaheim Union High School District's exclusive IB diploma program. You are here because you have received an acceptance into this exclusive diploma program. And if you are, after tonight, interested in being a part of our Kennedy Fighting Irish family, we are able to support you with that process. If you are not a student who naturally is going to move on to Kennedy High School, we are going to spend a little time talking about that process today. And we actually have somebody out in the lobby who will help you with that if you would like to join our family, and we so hope that you decide that you do. We are going to go over tonight's agenda really quickly, have some information for you, and then of course the best part is going to be to hear from our own International Baccalaureate candidates, students themselves. I want to introduce you to our tonight's agenda. So we are going to give you an overview of the IB diploma program so you have an understanding of what it is and have a better idea if it's going to be a good fit for your student. We are going to talk about what an IB learner profile looks like. And we're going to go through what the requirements are to participate in the IB program. It is a very prestigious diploma, and so there are some requirements that you need to understand. We also are going to talk a little bit about IB and sort of this college preparedness advantage, so we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about the transfer procedure. That's where if you are not currently a student who is scheduled to attend Kennedy next year, how we can get you here at Kennedy High School, which we really, really want to do. And then we have our incredible IB student panel, and then we have an opportunity at the end for some questions. We do promise that we will end here at 8:30 as scheduled, so just so you know. Without further ado, I would like to introduce you to our IB coordinator, Ms. Kaylin Letterman.
Hi, good afternoon, good evening. It is the evening now. I am the IB coordinator at Kennedy High School. I've been the IB coordinator for quite a while now. And I am also a teacher. I teach the IB physics class. When I talk about the classes, I teach the IB physics class. And I'm also the science department chair. I wear lots of different hats. But as the IB coordinator, it is a different role because we have the IB program. They don't have them everywhere. So I really counsel the IB students through the program. I am also a liaison between the IB students and the IB staff with the rest of the school and the district. I make sure your student is in the right classes to make sure they are prepared for college, to graduate high school, and to be eligible for the IB program. I do all the registration for the IB exams. We'll talk about those a little bit later. And I also really am there to help the scheduling of the students. The IB students get the special perk when they're 11th and 12th grade to get their schedules hand scheduled by me before the rest of the schedules go in to make sure that we can fit all of the requirements for all three of the things we're trying to get your student eligible for. 1, to graduate high school, 1, to be A through G, which is the requirements so that your student is eligible to apply for Cal States and UCs in California, and then also to be eligible for the IB diploma. So I really sit with the students and make sure all of those three things happen with their junior and their senior year. So what is this? There we go. I clicked the right button. This IB diploma curriculum. There are really different parts to this curriculum, and I'm going to be talking about the IB program. IB really is a holistic program that has several facets to it. It is separate from AP. AP, if you've heard of advanced placement classes, are classes that students can take in high school that they take a class, they take a test at the end, and depending on how well they do on that test, they could potentially get college credit. They are also college level classes. All of the IB classes are also college level classes. It really is part of a program though, not just the classes. It has the classes in it, and we'll look a little bit about the curriculum, but there is also what in IB we call the core. There are parts of the program that only IB students get to experience that really develop the skills that are necessary to be successful in college. So the first thing we'll talk about is the courses. So an IB course can be a 2-year class or a 1-year class. So the 1-year class, they take it very similar to an AP class. They take the class. At the end of that class, they have an IB test. They get an IB score. The 2-year classes are very similar, but they're over 2 years. For example, my IB physics class is a 2-year class. So I get those set of students as a junior, then they continue with me as a senior, and I get them for 2 years. I love it. I love developing those connections with those students, and that's one of the things that the IB program really allows teachers and the fellow students to create is those relationships with each other. The courses include all the courses from the different subjects. To be part of the whole program, you have to take an IB course in each of the groups. So we have an IB Language A course. Language A is the language of instruction. So that for your student would be English. The language B is a world language that your student would stretch themselves to learn. So that would be the world languages that we offer at Kennedy are Spanish, French, and Korean. So your student would take one of those, and then they would also, our IB students, when they go through all the levels, are eligible for the Seal of Biliteracy. The Seal of Biliteracy in Anaheim Union High School District, they need to get to a level 4 of that language, and through the IB program they do. That's an extra distinction the students get. Then the group 3 is the individuals and societies. We have a 2-year history program, and then we have a psychology program that has a 1-year or a 2-year option. That psych class, I think some of my student panel can talk about the psych. Then the group 4 is the experimental sciences. So my class is one of them. So we teach a 2-year physics course that goes over the physics in 2 years. There's 2 years of physics I go over. Both years are college level. And then we have a biology course that is a 1-year course. Our group 5 is our mathematics. And our mathematics, our students can really do a range of mathematics. When we talk about kind of the requirements of the IB program, one of the requirements is that a student stays on level in math. So your student has to be able to do pre-calculus by their senior year. And that is not advanced math. So there is a non-advanced math path. They could go Math 1, Math 2, Math 3, pre-calculus. If your student is good in math, or likes math, or wants to stretch themselves in math, we do have the math sequence that goes through to calculus. So there's 2 really kind of pathways there for students. Then our group 6 is our arts and electives. They can take kind of any class above that they haven't taken, or the arts class that we take is the film class. I'm sure my panel will also, Shrina's looking at me already. Also, our film teacher is here. He donates his time to me to do the live stream. So that's Mr. Corcoran. He teaches the IB film class, which I think is an incredible, I wish I had taken it even though I'm more of a math sciencey brain. In that class, they analyze films, right? Like if you've ever wondered, hey, in this scene, why did this give me goosebumps? Mr. Corcoran and his students would be able to tell you, right? It has to do with the, like, I'm gonna butcher the wording, and he's just smiling. Like, they zoomed in, and then the music changed, and the lighting, and like, he can explain that all to you. I don't know, he's probably like, oh my gosh. But then they also learn those and then make films to try to do that, to try to utilize that. So they will make films throughout the year or 2 years if they're in that class. They will be the director of one of the films. They will be the actor in one of the films. They will be the editor. So they really, it's a holistic film class where they analyze and then they do. Then they actually can make the films using the stuff that they learned. So those are the courses. Those courses do act similar to a standalone AP class, where at the end of each of those classes, you take an IB exam and you can get an IB score. Individually, those IB scores can give you college credit. So you do have the potential to get a lot of college credit. One of the students that was out greeting is not a current student, Adam Salam. He's an alumni. He came back to he loves the IB program. He's going to Cal State Fullerton. He is going to be able to graduate from Cal State Fullerton in basically 2.5 years because of all the credit he was able to receive through the program. With those classes, one of the differences between an AP and IB exam, if you're just looking at the individual classes, the AP is very focused on the end result, the learning, what they can prove right then, and errs more towards memorization. The IB cares about the process of their learning. And it cares about, can you look at this information and analyze it and explain? In those IB scores, every score has an internal assessment as well as an external assessment. Those external assessments are the end of the year exams. The internal assessments are a project or an oral or an experiment that your student does that they can really explore what they want to do, and it values that skill set. For example, my physics class, my students will come up with their own physics question. They will design an experiment to test that question, test their question, analyze their results, and then conclude from those results if they supported or disproved their hypothesis in the beginning. Those skills are critical thinking skills. There's creativity, if we're talking about the 5 C's, because they have to creatively figure out how to test that hypothesis. They go through all of those skills. I help them along the way, and then they submit that to IB, and that's 25% of the IB grade. It is not just the test at the end, can you do multiple choice? They value the fact that your student can also do these things. So for example, the world languages, they do take a test at the end where they have to read and they have to listen, but part of their exam is also an oral, which sounds kind of scary, but the teacher walks them through it. They have to have a conversation with the teacher of that to prove, hey, I can also converse in this language with this teacher. And that is part of their IB score at the end, where the AP score is just the test. That also helps students that maybe are not the best test takers. They have that other part of the score that is a little less high stakes for them. They get the help of the teacher to kind of step them through that can help them be successful if maybe they aren't the best test taker at the end, to help them be successful in that class. The other part of the IB program is what we call the core. There are 3 kind of parts to the core. The first part is the extended essay. The extended essay is a 4,000-word research paper, which some of your students just went, done, I'm good. But it is the #1 thing that the students come back and say prepared them for college. They write it over 2 years. They get an advisor to help them write it every step of the way, and they get to choose the topic that they're writing it in. So I have some students that do their EEs in physics, and they research physics that I didn't teach them, then they design an experiment, and they go through all of that. The extended essays in literature, right, in English. It's not just a research paper. They have to pick a theme, like how women affected the Civil War versus, or like in this novel versus this novel, and analyze the role of females in those. It's analyzation. It's not just, I read this book and here's my book report. These research papers require your students to use a resource called JSTOR that has articles, that is a college-level research database that a lot of our students do not get in high school. Our school actually pays for it ourselves because AUHSD does not knock on the district, but we pay for it to make sure our students have access to those resources to do the college-level research that they will have to do in college. Another part of the core is the creativity, activity, and service. Part of that is the project, but this is really where IB says, we don't want your student to be an academic robot. We want your student to be involved with things creatively in their lives. We want them to be active. So that might be a sport that they join. That might be the karate that they've been doing since they were 5. That might be the action is the community service. If they volunteer through their church or through any source of community service organization. They really value that your student, again, is not just an academic robot. They are whole human beings that need to develop all of parts of them to be good adults. Part of the creativity, activity, and service is the CAS project. They develop it as a junior, and they have like the 2 years kind of to finish the project, but it is a service learning project. They get together with other IB students, and they develop a service learning project to help the community. They decide what the community is. Sometimes that community is on the smaller side, and they choose a project that will help students at Kennedy High School. Sometimes that community is bigger. We've had students who have wanted to kind of honor veterans, and one of the students who's here for the panel can kind of talk to you about that. They wanted to honor veterans, so they did cards and they did posters and stuff and went to a veterans hospital during Veterans Day to kind of honor those veterans. We've had groups want to honor nurses, and they give little care packages to nurses, and they did the donations, they put them together, they reached out to a hospital to help with that. I think all high school students should be required to do a service learning project, but that's just me. But with IB, they do, and they can write about it, and it's part about the IB wants them to reflect on the process. How did this broaden your horizons of what the world, like you're impacting the world? How did this affect you as a human being? The other part of the core is a class called the Theory of Knowledge. It is a 2-year course. They will take it both their junior and their senior year. And like the name is, they learn about knowledge. They learn about what makes a fact in the different disciplines. What makes a fact in science? What makes a theory in psychology a theory in psychology? What makes knowledge knowledge? They also talk about, they go into some dilemmas, right? They think about, right? Like what, yeah. So I think one that they do as a junior, and I might be ruining it for some of the juniors, I think one of them has to do with a train. And you're on the train and you have to decide, would you sacrifice one person to save a lot, but that one person is kind of not a very good person, but the other people, so like they think through these things, and it's not really like a moral, like you're wrong, I'm wrong, but it gets them thinking. It's about the theory of like knowledge and how we form our ideas. And what makes our idea? It brings into other cultures and how other cultures view things like science or things like English and how that really melds together. If you can't tell, again, this is another one like film. I wish I had taken it. My high school didn't have IB, so I didn't take it, but I wish I had taken this class. So in this short amount of time, I can't tell you all the things about IB. But in general, the program has the courses where your students can get a lot of college credit and prepare for college. And then it has the core. The core is really what separates it. And the core is really what also builds your student as a holistic human being and those skills that go into them being successful in college. Being successful in college, I think, is the biggest benefit. The other benefits do have to do with that college credit and the acceptance. So this is not just our school. This is a study IB did. So in the United States, right? So you can see some of the big ones, like MIT. The national acceptance rate at MIT is 7.2. The one for IB diploma candidates is 23. Still not good, but a lot better. You can see the ones for Stanford. Stanford is increased. You can see the one for John Hopkins, increased. I will do my disclaimer. Being part of IB does not guarantee you anywhere, right? Because nothing does. But it looks like it increases your chances, which is kind of what we want. Johns Hopkins also just got that huge grant, and it's like tuition free for however long. Like, that was nuts if you heard about that. That's crazy. But anyway, if your sites aren't that far, Cal State Berkeley, right? Cal has a better acceptance rate. UCLA, UC San Diego have a better acceptance rate for the IB students. One of the things that I do for students who are in the IB program is that I help them with their college applications. So I act as their counselor, and I go through and I make sure the colleges, so I write them all a letter, and I say, this student is IB, this is what they've done. I talk about their extended essay, what they wrote their extended essay on. I write about their internal assessment. If they're going into a field that they did an internal assessment in, I make sure to mention that. I talk about their CAS project. And every time I go, private, UC, Cal State, they all ask if the student is an IB diploma candidate. That tells me they all value this program and understand this program does prepare students very well for college. Our acceptance rate are not 100%, right? Like, there's no guarantee. I just want to say that in case you go home and like, oh, they're going to IB, they're 100% guaranteed into this college. They're not, but it does increase their chances. It also just shows, again, that these universities do understand what the program is and that those students are typically more prepared than students who did not have those experiences. So as we go through with the credit, the UCs give credit if you score a 30 or above. They pretty much give you sophomore standing, and a lot of the Cal State. So with your student entering a Cal State or a UC as sophomore standing, right, they also, one of the big perks that I don't think a lot of students or parents think about is that when you register for classes at college, they do it based on how many units your student has. And so they start with seniors, let them register, then like the junior registration opens, then the sophomores, then the freshmen. A lot of our UCs and Cal States have, like, they're impacted, which means they may be trying to get that freshman English class, and that first semester, they can't because it's full by the time they get to their alphabet. If your student gets sophomore status, they are trying to get those freshman classes when the sophomores are registering because they get to register with the sophomores. It's a little extra perk of them maybe being able to get out of college on time because they don't have to wait around for some of their prerequisites. They also, just like I said before, like an AP class, if they get a certain score on IB test, your college will automatically give you a certain amount of credit for that test. It is different for every college. So I can't say, oh, if your student takes these classes, they're going to get guaranteed these credits. It is a very Googleable search, though. If you say, like, UCI IB credit, they will have a big table of this exam, this score gives you credit on this. For privates, also, they give credit. I just used Chapman University as an example. 4, 5, or 6, they get 6 semester units. I will say with the credits, if the class is in your student's major, they usually don't let them out of a class. They usually give them elective credits, but that's with APs as well. They want your kid to take the class that their major is in. When I was talking about what I think the biggest benefit is really developing those skills. IB did a survey, 2024. If you look at this chart, I know it's a little confusing, but it's all for graduation from a 4-year university. So if you're at all familiar with schools right now, or if you have a student that's a little bit older, it's not typical anymore for a student to graduate from a four-year university in 4 years. It's becoming a little bit harder to do that. So this one on the left is graduation from a four-year university in 4 years. It says that the national average is 49%. The IB diploma recipients is 76%. Again, that data, science, right? That data tells me that they are prepared when they get to college. They graduate at a higher rate once they are in college because they are prepared. This is graduation after 6 years, so they went to a four-year university, a typical four-year university, and graduated after 6 years. The national average goes up to 68, but the IB diploma recipients goes up to 94%. So there is a significant difference in those numbers. They are prepared for college after going through the IB program. So our specific program statistics, we had 137 students taking IB courses. They took 417 tests. The IB diploma candidates, so those are seniors who are in the whole program. You can also take IB courses as a course candidate, where you're only taking that one course similar to an IB or an AP. But we had 47 IB diploma candidates last year, and 40 of them ended up meeting all the qualifications to get their IB diploma. That's a rate of 85%. You may say, well, 15% of them did not. There's a lot of factors that go into that. One is that at our school and in AUHSD, we have decided not to require a test or a GPA to get into our IB program. So if a student can meet the requirements that I'll talk about in a second, right, they are admitted into the program. We work to make sure they reach that goal, but some of them fall a little short. Again, even if they do not get the diploma, they have been in those classes, they have developed those skills that help them in college. The average grade on the IB exams by those candidates was 4.37. A passing on an IB exam is a 4 because they go from 1 to 7. So a 4 to a 7 is considered passing for an IB exam. So acceptance and enrollment into the IB program. So the IB courses technically do not start until 11th and 12th grade. We do recommend that students transfer as a ninth grader for a couple of reasons. One, it's a natural break for a new school. So your student will be starting a new school as a ninth grader anyway. So we recommend that change happens as a ninth grader rather than going to a school as a ninth grader and then transferring as an 11th grader. Second, our school has developed a vertical alignment with our subjects. So our 9th and 10th grade teachers who teach primarily the honors, because that's what we recommend for getting prepared for the IB program, know the requirements of the IB program. They meet with the IB teachers of 11th and 12th, and they develop the skills that the students will need in the IB program for the 11th and 12th grade. The other schools in our district do not have IB, so they're not quite aware of what those skills or requirements might be if they are transferring as an 11th grader. So for our 9th and 10th graders, we do recommend the honors classes, and if you picked up one of the packets as well, the handbook, that last page is kind of the course sequence for math and world language, and at the top it recommends kind of our classes for 9th and 10th grade. The requirements to be eligible are going to be that they can reach that pre-calculus in the 12th grade. As I said, that is a non-advanced math. They can absolutely be advanced, but they have to be on schedule, the normal, on level in math. So they can't get behind in math. And then they have to be able to reach a 4th level of the world language. So that 4th level does not necessarily mean your student has to take 4 years. Some of them advance through that, but they need to be able to reach that 4th level. So that's why on that paper, and when like the students kind of say, I'm interested in the IB, we do recommend that your student takes a world language their freshman year. So they would take world language as a freshman, world language as a sophomore, and then junior, they may be able to stop, right, or continue their senior year. So those are kind of the 2 requirements because of the coursework for IB that you have to be able to get to a certain level. But there is no GPA requirement. There is no test to get in, like at Oxford, or an IB school kind of near us in Fullerton, like does a test, right? You test into their program in 9th grade, and then they test you again at the end of 10th grade to see if you are worthy of their program. We accept anyone who wants to try, right? We do offer extra supports for those students who might be a little nervous about the level of those courses. That's kind of where I come in, and where at 11th and 12th grade, your student would have Ms. Chan as their counselor. She's also in the lobby. She's our special programs counselor, which just kind of means that she has less on her caseload, and we can kind of help those students along if they need kind of some extra supports. With kind of this meeting in 8th grade, we are also right now at Kennedy going through course selection for our students. So this is also when I meet with those sophomores, and your student would kind of have those 2 years to kind of feel out Kennedy, see what it is and stuff like that. And then I would meet with them at a 10th grade and they would say, I'm interested, let's look at what it would look like for the next 2 years. And they really commit to the IB program pretty much right now in their sophomore year. So if you are in our attendance boundary and your student is at Walker, they are naturally going to go to Kennedy, so there's nothing you really need to do. I would pay attention to your student's schedule and make sure that they're in those honors classes, world language, and if you want any help with that, you can email me or we can set something up. If you're not in the attendance boundary, you do have to apply for a transfer. And I say apply, but it's not really apply because of the IB program only being at Kennedy. If you indicate your student is interested in IB, they will guarantee the transfer over to Kennedy. So the way we're doing transfers is in, I thought it was so in Aries, the parent portal of Aries, you'll see now a new student info and a school of choice request. It will pull this up, you'll click here, and then it's a little weird, but it's gonna go under a priority 2. You're gonna choose Kennedy High School, and then to indicate IB under sibling name, you're gonna put IB program. That is how the district would like us to do it. So under the siblings names, you put the IB program. So that is how you're kind of indicating to them, I want to go to Kennedy because of the IB, and that's where they kind of funnel you over and go, okay, here you go. We do have some Chromebooks set up in the lobby if you're like, yes, let's do this. Our faces, Mr. Hernandez is over there too. He can kind of help you through that process so we can get it done with, everything like that. If you're not quite sure, you still want to talk about a family, it is a family choice. You kind of need to make sure what's best for your family and make that decision. You can go on later and do the transfer process in the Aries parent portal. That process is open until the end of January. So some upcoming dates, if you want to get more familiar with Kennedy in the process, we do have our Kennedy Expo. That's next Wednesday. So that will entail us showcasing all of our programs, our choir, our band. It will showcase our exclusive program of KITE, our Kennedy Institute of Technology and Engineering. We also will have booze up for the different departments like science and stuff like that. I will have a table, so if you have other questions, you can come talk to me. It's a good way for you to get a taste of Kennedy in general. We are also offering an IB Parent Learners Walk. So if you've been on a learner walk before, you do go to the school and you visit classrooms. So I will set up a schedule where you will be going into some of the IB classrooms, some of the pre-IB classrooms, some of the 9th honors, and you can sign up through that. Mr. Hernandez will also kind of run that, and that is on the 26th. That's a Monday. It's in the morning. Yes. So those are kind of the two things you can also do if you're interested in kind of learning more about Kennedy. The IB Learning Walk, I will also be there to answer any questions and for you to get more information if you have specific questions or just in general again. But those are two events that we have upcoming at Kennedy if you want to explore us more. And I think that's all I have to spew at you today. So now we're going to bring up our students. So part of our student panel, we have 2 current IB juniors and then 3 current IB seniors. So these are all full diploma candidates, which means they are on track to take the full diploma. Carl. Sorry. They are still high school students too. So I'm going to introduce themselves and ask a few general questions about the program and their experience, and then we will open it up for parents and students to be able to ask them questions. So Aiden, why don't you take that microphone? And I'm going to have him start, and they're going to start out by introducing themselves and then kind of telling you what they do extracurricular or anything like that.
All right. Hi, everyone. My name's Aiden Kim. I'm a senior, and I'm involved in a lot of organizations here at Kennedy, like JROTC, Film and Literature Society, Visual Art Club. I was in theater last semester. Shrina can talk to you about that. Yeah, I'm just sort of all around.
Hi everyone, my name is Shrina Suva. I'm also a senior here at Kennedy. I'm involved also in a couple of different programs. For one, I'm in theater. I'm the president of our theater program here. I'm also involved in mock trial and a couple other clubs like FNL, the Film and Literature Society, and stuff like that. So yeah.
My name is Brandon Hom. I'm a senior at Kennedy. I'm on the varsity football team. I played football for 4 years. I also did track for a couple years. I'm part of AAA, which is a club focused around academic aid, and yeah.
Hi, my name is Krishna Patel. I'm a junior. Some of my extracurriculars here at Kennedy are being part of NHS, Key Club, Each One Teach One, which is a nonprofit volunteer club here, mock trial, and I played sports my first 2 years, but now I'm...
Hello. Hello, I'm Carl Kroll. I'm a junior. I am in band. I am in cross country. I did badminton for a year. I did track for a year. I'm a FBLA president, and also I am in NHS.
I know one of the things that parents and students are a little apprehensive about sometimes is transferring to our school from a different feeder middle school, junior high. Are your students going to make friends? How's that experience going to be? So I think 4 out of the 5 of these students actually did not go to Walker, our feeder junior high. So I'm gonna have them explain their experience shortly, but tell you kind of how that experience was when they transferred here, not from Walker, kind of learning new people and having a new experience in that.
So I have the mic, so I guess I'll start. It was, I would like to say it was definitely hard at first. Like I still talk to my old friends, you know, I still hang out with them. But when you join things like band, like when you're involved, you really make a lot of friends. And I made a lot more than I expected I would have, honestly. And one of the things I worried about coming here was that I wouldn't find a home, and I definitely found a home here.
Yeah, I agree with what Carl said. It's definitely a little nerve-wracking at first, not knowing anyone, coming to an entire new school where like everyone is a stranger. But I feel like for me personally, I did the volleyball camp before 9th grade started. So if you're interested in sports or anything, that's where like you can make the most connections, meet new people, like find people who have the same interests as you too. And I would say Kennedy was very inclusive. Like all the kids, just put yourself out there.
I went to Walker, so I have the mic to Sri.
So I went to Lexington for middle school, and my home school is Cypress, so that's where I was supposed to go. But when I was in 8th grade, I came to this meeting that was held just like all of you guys, and I was like, wow, IB. And so I transferred here, and it was honestly, I'm really happy about the fact that I transferred. I do like echo what Christian and Carl said. It is nerve-wracking at first, but my biggest advice would be you just have to put yourself out there. That first club rush, like your freshman year, sign up for everything, and go to the first meetings. You might not like everything, and that's okay, but stick with the things that you think are interesting. And I found like most of my first friends through my clubs and stuff, and I was also able to connect with a lot of upperclassmen as well. So I would just say, like, put yourself out there, and no one's gonna judge you for putting yourself out there. Honestly, it's admirable if you're a freshman and you're trying a bunch of new things. It's cool.
I was from way out of district. I went to Grace Christian School, and coming to Kennedy, I knew 2 people, and I was in classes with 0 of them. I also had really bad social anxiety in middle school, like 8th grade. My heart accelerated when I talked to like a waiter in a restaurant. It was really bad. But for me, it was really the organizations here at Kennedy that really brought me out. Especially like JROTC for me was the big thing. That's where I met a lot of my first friends and friends I still have in my senior year. But just overall, joining a lot of organizations really brings you out of your shell. It makes you more confident to be who you want to be. And it's okay to be nervous at first. My freshman year, to be honest, was not perfect. I didn't know a lot of people even at the end of my freshman year, but it was an improvement. And you'll see, like, as you get to your senior year, you'll find you've made a lot of friends along the way. And you'll look back and be like, wow, that was pretty crazy. Yeah. CAS, okay. My CAS project was, since I'm leadership with JROTC, I'm the battalion executive officer, I decided to link it with the battalion. So we decided to do a service learning project where we would go to the West LA California Veterans Home, and we would pass out posters and cards and letters that we made. And it was really great, not only just preparing, like have everyone come to the events and make cards and posters with each other, bond with each other, that was fun too, but also going to the actual event itself and seeing the smiles on the veterans' faces and being able to talk to them and hear their stories. It was really great. So I think it was really beneficial, not just for the people we were helping, but also for ourselves, because we were able to collaborate with one another and just have a lot of fun too, and make the world a little better.
So for my CAS project, well, the number one thing I would like to say about CAS is that you should choose what you're interested in and don't do something just because you think it might be like a good service idea. You should choose the things that you're actually passionate about. It'll help you out just like in general as like your journey throughout CAS or like just an IB in general. So I'm a huge fan of the arts, literature. I'm a dancer, I'm an actress, I love film. So I was like, I need to do something that relates to that. And so my CAS project was a multimedia art magazine called Project Mosaic. And we had it was specifically catered to helping neurodivergent students at Kennedy express themselves. Actually just neurodivergent students in the community. But we had a bunch of student submissions, so students submitted sculptures, paintings, digital art, poetry, etc. And we published it in a magazine and even held like a mini art exhibition where a bunch of teachers, students, and administrators came to come see. It was a great experience, and we had like resources on how you can support neurodivergent students in your community. And so it doesn't have to be like, when you think of CASA, you might think, oh, I have to do like a bunch of service things, people need to get volunteer hours. It doesn't need to be like that. You can really showcase your strengths. If you're a really creative person, then lean into that. If you care more about like sports or athletics, you can also lean into that. Like, choose your strengths, and then it should really reflect what you're passionate about. That's what I would recommend. It'll make the process a lot more easier, and you'll have fun while doing it.
My CAS project was called Kennedy Chic. So it was a clothing drive that we held for students in the community, but mainly at Kennedy. And it's what's called a legacy project. I guess that's the formal name for it. But pretty much it means that this project is open for IB students to do every year, because every IB student has to do a CAS project, but some projects are kind of handed down. And the main framework is laid out for you, and you just kind of change little things here and there to make it your own. So what we did is we collected all the clothing from donations from students around school, and we held the clothing drive. And after, we donated extra clothes to the LA, like the Fires Foundation, because there was the fires going on around that time last year, and then to local like Goodwills and things like that. And honestly, not only is it like great for college apps, honestly, because I didn't know what to write about for a lot of my things, but your CAS project really looks good because it's not just academic, but it's showing your character and things that you put your time into. But I think like Shrina and Aiden were saying, it also helps you, like, it's a good experience to be a part of something that's just bigger than yourself and bigger than something you're required to do in sports or other things like that.
So our project is called Shaping Minds. Because we're juniors, it's still in like the planning phase, beginning part of the execution phase. But essentially our project is we're going to build a sensory corner at Wagner Elementary School, which is a special needs elementary school here in Orange County. And to do this, we're basically going to collect donations from kids all over campus, like stuff like fidget spinners and objects that these students can emotionally and physically communicate with to their teachers. So I think being a part of the planning phase actually brings everything into perspective of like partnering with schools or like talking to principals and like teachers about how things are actually put into action and not just the behind the scenes of things.
Yeah, so like she said, as juniors, we're put into this room, right? And we try to come up with this idea, like what possibly could we do, right? And like all the seniors here said, they really lean into passion, lean into stuff like that. And so what my group decided to do is we were all really passionate about nature, and so we decided to do a social media like kind of platform advocating for nature. So we'd go on nature hikes, do all that kind of stuff. And it's actually been really fun and really like a fulfilling activity. Strangely, I didn't think it'd end up this way, but it certainly has. So it's a really good experience.
Seniors. EE.
EE, we love the EE. Okay, so the extended essay. Like Ms. Letterman talked about, for the EE, you get to choose what you want to do it on. And similar to the CAS project, you really want to choose something that you're interested in, because you don't want to find yourself, middle is like senior year, and when it's due, you're like, dude, I hate writing about this. I don't want to write about this anymore. So I chose psychology, because I'm really interested in psychology. And I wrote about how stress impacts how students perform on exams, because I was like, I want to know, like, why does this happen, Like, am I hurting myself by being stressed out, or how can I prevent this? And, you get to write about whatever you want to. And I wrote a lot about the brain and memory and stuff that I really find interesting. The word count and the size does seem, kind of difficult, especially when you're a freshman or a sophomore and you're used to writing like one page. But like Ms. Letterman said, you have a teacher that walks the entire process out with you, and you meet with them, and they tell you, okay, like, these are the things you need to do, and if you ever need help, like, come in and ask. And it really teaches you how to do a project or do a paper of this size, which is needed in university and college. And yeah, it's just a great experience, but don't be too intimidated, guys. You'll be able to do it. You guys will be good.
All right, so my EE, I did mine in film, and my topic was how does cinema reflect the way the queer experience differs across cultures. So the two films I chose were some of like my favorite films of all time. So I was already leaning into something that I was already passionate about. And basically, like for my essay, I got to watch the movies like a billion times, and then do a bunch of research and then write about them. And it was honestly really fun, even on the nights where it got difficult and outlining was like, oh my god, this is a drag. But it was, at the end of the day, it was really fun. It was something I was truly passionate about. And I would say, like, if you're thinking of doing your EE in literature or physics or whatever you choose to do it in, you're gonna do a ton of research. And I think that's like the biggest thing that I took away from the EE is the amount of research that I had to do. Even for something like an art subject like film, you do a ton of research onto like the history, the background of each film, and using like these college level research databases like Ms. Letterman talked about, using JSTOR, stuff like that. It's so important to be able to read sources like that, read difficult material, be able to synthesize that information and then put it into your own words. And it's really gonna set you apart from other people. Like our English teacher, she talks a lot about how like kids nowadays can't really write essays, and she's like, oh yeah, these kids can't write like a paragraph without their phones, or they can't write anything without AI. And if you're able to, well, IB says no AI at all, so be prepared for that. But if you're able to do difficult research, to understand difficult research, and then apply it and use your own ideas, it's really going to set you apart from other people. And that experience with heavy level research was the most beneficial when it comes to the EE.
So for myself, I did my EE in literature because in middle school, I was a really big reader. I loved to read books all the time. And my favorite book of all time was Catch-22 by Joseph Heller. I loved it a lot. I'd probably read it at least 7 or 8 times by the time I even got to junior year. So when I was selecting my EE topic, I was like, well, I'll just do it on my favorite book. And it really was great because basically all I had to do was, at first I just sat down and I read the book again. That was great because, favorite book, and it never gets old, however many times you read it. So that was really fun. But then what was even more fun was when we got on JSTOR and then we had to go research. And I found all these other people writing about Catch-22. I'm like, wow, look at all these other nerds who like this book just as much as me. So that was actually like a really fun part of the process, reading all the articles. You wouldn't think reading a bunch of research articles would be really fun, but it was a lot of fun. I actually looked forward to doing that part of the EE. And then writing the actual EE, 4,000 words seems really daunting on paper, but when you choose something you're really interested in, the problem isn't reaching the word count, the problem is cutting down on what you're saying because you liked it so much, there's too much to say. My first draft went way over 4,000. I had to cut down a lot. So don't worry about struggling to puff up the word count to meet that requirement because it's probably not going to be an issue in that regard if you pick something you really like. Overall, I think the EE was a really good experience because, well, for me, I picked something I really liked, so it was really fun for me for the entire process. And it didn't really feel like a drag at all for me. But also, after completing the EE, you're like, wow, I just wrote 4,000 words. That's kind of crazy. And then after that, nothing really seems that hard anymore. In English, for us seniors, we have a rewrite due this Thursday. It's 1,200 words, but after the E, it's well, whatever, I can do that. So it also boosts your confidence in that way too. So overall, I think it's pretty beneficial.
Just real quick, I wanted to add something. The essay seems huge, and you're doing a ton of research, and it is a year-long process, but also remember, you're not alone when you do it. You have, whatever subject you choose, you also have an advisor. You can ask a teacher to advise for you. So Mr. Corcoran was my advisor for my film EE, and you'll meet with your advisor, and you'll hash everything out. You'll go from brainstorming, narrowing your ideas down, till you find a focus, a research question. You'll do a whole outline, and through the entire process, you're gonna have someone who has your back, and you also have your peers. Some people might be doing the same subject as you, some people might be doing different subjects, but you can always rely on other people, and you're not completely alone throughout the process, and there's always support, so.
I think those are all the set questions I have. We will open it up to the audience. And then there's one on the live chat, so we'll start with that one.
So I think with even with AP and just with regular classes in general, you're always going to have less time with doing sports. And with football, it's a very time-consuming sport. Obviously, your Friday nights, you're playing, and practice is 2-3 hours every day. But I mean, I'm here. It's definitely doable. It is not impossible. When I was coming in, I was like, ooh, I don't know how I'm gonna do this, especially like first quarter, because that's football season, so it's right at the start of the year. It is really important that you're smart about your time, though. Like if I know I have a game on Friday, I'm not gonna wait until Friday night to do my assignments or my essays because I'm gonna be tired after my game. I'm not gonna wanna do anything. So it's really about being smart about where you manage your time and using your planner. I did not learn to use my planner until late junior year, senior year, which is bad, but it's definitely helpful. It helps you manage your time. So the program is for student athletes. It's not just for people who, do nothing outside of school and don't do sports and they just focus on school. No, it is for student athletes, and it's a great experience to learn how to manage your time. And because when you get to college, obviously you're going to have a lot of things on your plate as well. So it's good to learn the skills now to be able to use them later.
So we have a band, but I will go into that. As long as it fits in your student's schedule, your student does have a limited number of periods they can take things, though. So Carl, though we were able to figure out most of our juniors aren't able to take the marching band and the jazz band, but Carl was able to fit it in. The restriction there is usually our students cannot do all the programs they want. They do eventually have to kind of pick, but there's no restrictions for our IB program and other programs. But he can speak a little bit about how it works with band.
Yeah, so basically there really is no restriction, if I'm going to be honest. So my band and my cross country, I have marching season and I have cross country season, and it's exactly the same time period. And it's a lot. With that plus IB, you're going around from race to, to marching band competition and trying to juggle all these things. And there's absolutely no restrictions on what you can do. It's as much as you can handle, basically.
I was gonna say, if you would like to do extra activities, you just might have to take a 0 period, but I think the counselors are really good at really shifting your schedule around, and pretty much you tell them, this is what I wanna do. I wanna play football, I wanna do band, I wanna do this, take these classes, and they're like, okay, you're gonna have to do a 0 period for junior year, and then you're gonna have to shift these classes around. So they really work with you to try to help you to fit everything in. They want you to do everything that you wanna do. And like he said, it's kinda as much as you can handle. I've never really been denied, oh, you can't do that. I'm just gonna have to suck it up, take a 0 period, go early, because I love playing football and I want to do IB, so yeah.
That I will say 0 period for our juniors and seniors is only guaranteed for our IB students. We do offer some 0 period for juniors and seniors that are not in IB, but once they are full, they are full.
I just wanted to add on to what everyone was saying. I'm in a ton of extracurriculars myself, so I've been in theater all 4 years of high school, and I'm the president now. And we do shows, we have rehearsals for the shows, we have musicals and plays. They take a lot of effort. You have show week where you're at school until 10 p.m. sometimes. And I'm also in mock trial, and we have trial days where you also get back to school at 10 p.m. And so it's doable to do a bunch of these difficult extracurriculars that take a lot of your time. But I think the biggest thing that helped me is that you have to choose your strengths, when it comes to classes and when it comes to extracurriculars in general. So I was okay with taking a 0 period, that was never a problem for me. But my junior year, I realized oh, I have a lot of extracurriculars that are happening right now, and I really want to get A's in all my classes. So maybe it isn't the smartest idea to take maybe the physics HL class. I'm sorry, Ms. Letterman, but I've never been very good at science. So I'm let me not take the science course, this super hard science course, and I'll take maybe physics honors and I'll do bio my senior year, which I'm doing now. So I think you have to really assess, I feel like in your freshman and sophomore years, you'll kind of get a better idea of what you're really good at. Like where, if you struggled in honors chem in your sophomore year, maybe don't take like AP chemistry, stuff like that. Like you're really gonna be able to figure out what you're good at and what you're not good at. And then IB does allow some flexibility in like which classes. If you're not very good at math, you don't have to take the highest math class, stuff like that. Well, for English, everybody has to take English, but there's different things. Like if you're not good at history, you can take psychology instead. So just balance your schedule. Like if you have a lot of extracurriculars you like, then maybe cut back on some of the classes. You know, don't take the highest level if you don't have to. Or if you're really focused on like, oh, I need to take this class for the major that I want to do in college, then maybe you can't really join that club for that year, and that's fine.
And I think that one thing that we can all agree on is how accommodating and understanding the teachers are in the IB program. I practically live in Miss Letterman's room because I am in her IB physics class. But what I can say is that with all the extracurricular activities that we have going on, or like the hard and rigorous course load, the teachers will try to work around you. Like they'll do whatever's best for you as long as you're the one that's putting the effort into.
I will say one of the things on our end, we do have an IB calendar where our teachers will put in their big assessments and stuff like that on the same calendar so the other teachers can view it. I have also been known if maybe there's a film field trip that the film teacher takes half of my class to, maybe I move my test, stuff like that. So we do understand that these students are in a lot. They are trying to be very well academic, they're trying to be well-rounded, and we do take that into account when we're scheduling things. And if they advocate for themselves with the teachers, that's really the big point. With enough warning, like maybe not walk in and be like, this is my 5th test today, can I not take it? Maybe not that, but a few days before that, you know, we have a really big test day on Thursday. Can we talk about moving it? Like the teachers are accommodating for things like that, and they do understand, right? The marching season is crazy. Football season, certain seasons are very big for the kids and stuff like that. Other questions? So students can do dual enrollment classes. The dual enrollment classes do not count for IB classes, but there are always electives that the students can take, and a lot of our students do dual enrollment over the summer, but they can take the dual enrollment classes during the semester as well.
Yeah, I've done a couple dual enrollment classes. I fulfilled my VAPA requirement with dual enrollment. I did history of rock class, and you can do it. I did mine over the summer because I knew I'm not going to want to take an online class when I'm taking all my IB courses. So like we said, it's smart to kind of schedule everything. But I think it being online makes it easy because you don't have to go in. It's less time. It's easier to do. And some of the requirements, like you can meet your VAPA taking dual enrollment class, which in my opinion is easier than taking a whole semester or a whole year of a class at Kennedy.
So I've taken a lot of dual enrollment classes. I think I've taken 10, and I'm going to take my 11th this semester. So it's a lot. It's very good for getting a lot of, first of all, it's really good for your GPA. It boosts your high school GPA a lot, but it also boosts your college GPA because you'll have a college GPA starting in high school. So that's very good. It also lets you, if you're interested in certain pathways, there's also opportunities for pathways. Myself, I started the cybersecurity certificate pathway in like junior year. So I'm actually going to graduate from Cypress College around the same time I graduate from John F. Kennedy High School with my certificate in cybersecurity. So that's pretty good. It gets me a lot of credits like to transfer over to hopefully a UC where I get admitted. We'll see. It's very good for that. And there's not only online classes as well, because personally, I don't really learn that well from online classes. I can still do them, but it's not the best for me. So there are also in-person classes you can take as well. I've gone to Cypress College in person for a lot of days, especially junior, senior year, and the summer between junior and senior year, in order to learn a lot there. And there's a very good like kind of relationship between Cypress College and Kennedy, you'll probably be able to get like pretty much every class you register for if you register in time. Sometimes some classes are more popular than others, so you might have to be fast about registration. But yeah, overall, I think dual enrollment is very possible with IB. I mean, I've taken dual enrollment last semester and this semester, and all throughout junior year. So it's very possible as long as you can manage your time with it, because it is definitely a time sink as well, because because lectures at Cypress College, even online, can go on for hours, and you have to be willing to give up that time in order to do that responsibility.
Our students range from never taking a dual enrollment class to, I would say, Aiden is probably on the other end, which is good. But like some of our students don't take any dual enrollment. They take their VAPA. Like Carl doesn't have to do a dual enrollment VAPA because he's in band. A lot of our students, because of the way kind of Kennedy rolled out the ethnic studies requirement, some of our students chose to do that ethnic studies through the dual enrollment, which is a plus because they get the college credit and they can do that requirement, but they do range from none to Aiden. Other questions? So if I hear you correct, sorry, what kind of supports outside of the classroom have helped them? Yes, supports or resources.
Personally, for me, the teachers are the biggest resource here. The teachers are really helpful. I don't think I've ever had a bad teacher here at Kennedy, personally at least. I don't know, I hear stories, but personally, I don't think I've ever had a bad teacher at Kennedy. They've all been pretty helpful. They've all been willing to help me out. Like if I come in after school, I think pretty much I think every teacher I've had would be willing to help me, to sit aside and help me with any problems I'm having. Even if I come in all the time. I know Miss Letterman especially is very helpful. Her room is always open after school, and physics is a pretty difficult class too. So, some students like Krishna and others, they hang out there all the time to get help with their physics homework. But it's not just physics. Like every course, I think all the teachers are very helpful. And especially for the IB teachers, I think the IB teachers are all very good at what they teach. So you won't have to worry about having a poor teacher in an IB class. I think all the IB teachers are very skilled at their subjects that they teach.
And I kind of want to touch on, I guess, a hidden resource that we don't really talk about because, yes, while I do echo what Aiden said about teachers and office hours, you can definitely come into your teacher's classroom anytime and they'll definitely help you out. But also, it's your peers. Their peers are, to me, at my time here at Kennedy and through IB, my friends and the other people in IB have been one of my biggest resources. And I think what Ms. Letterman showed on one of the slides earlier, the diploma candidates for last year was a class of 47 people. And 47 is a very small number. It's a very tight-knit community. You share almost all your classes with these people for over 2 years. And at this point, I feel like I can call almost anyone in the IB program my friend. And I feel like I can talk to them about anything. If I need help with a class, if I need oh, did you see what the homework was for this? We have different group chats and stuff like that where we send each other resources, send each other material. Me and my friends, we have a tracker, or we have a shared planner where we all track have we done our homework, have we done this, a calendar where we all update. In our English classroom, we have a big calendar where we write down, this is one of our tests, this is an assignment, this is that. And just aside from the teachers, you also have all the people around you who are also doing the exact same courses as you, and they're also you're surrounded by very driven people. And I feel for me, in an environment, if I'm surrounded by people who are very hardworking, very driven, they kind of rub off on me, and I'm ooh, I gotta lock in too, because everyone else is really focused. And so you have, just aside from the teachers, you will have a resource in the people around you, and not academically and also socially. If you ever need help, there's always someone there.
Yeah, Krishna or Carl from the junior perspective.
Yeah, so I just want to give a little example. I can walk out of Ms. Letterman's class having absolutely no idea what she just discussed. And that has happened many times. But when I walk out, I'm not stressed because I know that I have a bunch of people behind me. I have Ms. Letterman. I can always come to her class after school or during lunch and get some help there. I can even get it with my friends, and it's such a supportive environment, I think. And if you're struggling or if like you need a little help, just ask. That's all you need to do.
Thank you. Other questions? Any students here have a question? Put you in the hot seat? No? To wrap up, maybe a few of you could share kind of what tipped you over to wanting to do IB. Because you were all in this situation, like sitting here going, should I, shouldn't I? Like, oh, Brandon's like, wait a second. I don't know, how do I verbalize that,
So
right?
do we all have to
No,
say something?
just as anyone,
I think something that I guess tipped me over was I wanted something that would challenge me, and I know that AP like courses do that too. But I felt like in the IB program, because the class sizes are much smaller than an AP class, that you get that connection with your teacher, but also like that learning environment is just completely different. Like you're able, like for example, in our physics class, like if we're confused or something, Miss Letterman will know immediately because we all have like this puzzled face on our looks. Like, and it's not just me; it'll be everyone in the classroom.
you're making my class seem like so
That class is
impossible.
amazing. I swear, it's probably one of my favorite classes right now. But I think the main thing about IB is that you have a connection with not just your teachers, but your peers and everyone around you too.
For me, I was trying to remember because yeah. So when I was trying to decide whether to join IB or not, I was with my friend and we saw this dude with the IB sweater, and I was like, we should go ask him, like, should I join IB? And he was a senior, and I think he was like the president of the IBCC or something. I forgot his name, I'm not sure. But he graduated like 2 years ago, and we asked him like, is this like possible? Like, can I do this? Like, I'm doing football. My friend was like, I'm doing all these things. And he like sat down with us and like looked at our like 2-year plans, like our schedules. Like he did not need to do that. And yeah, what really like tipped me over, he was like, it's possible. Like you can do it. There's a lot of help, and there definitely is a lot of help. I remember when I was making my choosing my classes, I was like telling Miss Letterman, give me like the easiest like path because this looks really hard. And she like helped me laid it out. So yeah, if you guys like want to talk about IB, you can definitely come up to us or Miss Letterman or anyone, but just know that it's possible. And yeah, you got to believe in yourself,
Okay, so like I mentioned in the beginning, I was just like one of you guys, an 8th grader sitting here in the K-Pack watching a bunch of IB students present about like IB and convinced me to join. And I think one of the things that tipped me over was the IB film program. I've always been interested in film, and when I heard about this, I'm like, I knew they didn't have something like this at Cypress, and I was like, ooh, I need to join. And then in my sophomore year again, I did get like doubts. I'm like, ooh, can I really do this? I was struggling with some of my classes in sophomore year, and I was like, I don't know if I can take another program like this. I don't have like the academic confidence for it. But I decided to do it anyway because, well, most of my friends were saying, like having one slip up in like your sophomore year doesn't like define your academic career, and you can still take something like that. And that kind of convinced me to join the IB program. And I'm really happy that I did, honestly, even though it was really difficult. There's so many, I guess, benefits to having it. More than just like the college credit and stuff like that. There's the people that you're gonna meet, your passions that you're gonna explore. I feel like IB has this like one-on-one type of teaching style because the class sizes are smaller than you would in like a regular class or an AP class. So you have more one-on-one time, and you have the time to develop your passions. And I really developed my passion for film, and now like as I'm applying for colleges, I'm majoring in film now because of like everything that I've done in IB. And so I would just say, like when it comes to this, I feel like you have to really understand who you are. You have to understand what your strengths are. You have to understand how far you're willing like to go. Like, are you a person that can manage your time? Are you willing to take the extra step and learn how to manage your time, even if you aren't the best at it right now? Like you can always improve. Like just don't think that because you're like not an A+ student right now, or you're not super focused right now, that you can't become focused later on. You can always improve, but it's always the question of, are you willing to do it? Like, are you willing to put in the effort to get to that level? I think IB is all about like the process, like the journey. You have to be willing to not only believe that you can do it, but believe that the people around you are going to support you and help you through it. So yeah, I think it's definitely a question that each student here should ask themselves because it is a big commitment, but I do think it's been hugely beneficial for me, just socially, academically, even for writing in my college essays. There's always so much to talk about.
For me, okay, I don't think this is gonna be like the common mindset, but for me, I actually somewhat enjoy school. Like it gives me something to do. I'm kind of a nerd, but like I do enjoy school. So, you know, I was sitting there as a sophomore. Honestly, like when I came to Kennedy, it was kind of out of chance because it just happened to be the school that was closest to my house. But I was sitting there in sophomore year, and then I was looking down like at the 2-year plan for IB, and I was like, oh, well, I guess I'll do IB because I mean it was the most challenging thing that was offered. So I was like, well, I guess I'll try it out because you know it could be fun. But yeah, that was just me. Like if you're out like sitting here and you're like, yeah, I like school kinda, even though it's kind of embarrassing to admit it. You know, if you're like that, then IB is definitely the program for you because I think it's kind of in that sweet spot, at least for me, where it's like it's pushing you, it's stretching you, but it's not like too difficult. It's not something impossible, and it's not something that's like that you're gonna like you know go insane over. It's something that's a good challenge for you, I think, not just academically, but also like just in all aspects of your life. Like CAS forced me to you know kind of step out from just the academic bubble and made me you know expand more because the CAS project is a big part of CAS, but also you know, the abbreviation is creativity, activity, and service. So it made me step outside of just academia, and it made me do more things creatively, and made me do more things, you know, actively and relating to service. So I think it's really good to get yourself more out there and make you just a more well-rounded person in general, I think.
So, what really tipped me over for being IB, like being from Lexington Junior High School, and my decision to do IB started like right now, like what you guys are like sitting in like right there, because I didn't have to go to Kennedy, I didn't have to join the IB program, but my decision was right then, and it was really daunting because there was 2 paths. I could go to Cypress High School or I could go to Kennedy High School, and like. It's a tough choice, but I'm very glad that I did. I'm a person who loves challenge, and I love challenging myself and putting myself in difficult situations and seeing how I can respond to that. And so, me doing IB, like I went from probably like playing Minecraft every day and you know just kind of milling about in middle school to like. Putting everything in my planner, you know, I haven't even had time for games in a while. So it's really an upper kind of level for yourself. And if you're ready for that, I very much encourage you to do it. Yeah.
Thank you. Any last questions from, yes. Oh, we have a student. Yay. So she asked the difference between like other college level physics class and the IB physics class and what separates it and what makes it so special. Other than the teacher, what makes it so special?
So I really enjoy the IB physics class. I'm not just saying that because Miss Letterman is standing to my right.
Yeah, his grade goes in tomorrow, we'll see.
I do really like the IB physics class, and what makes it different is AP physics. I think AP Physics A, I don't know, I didn't take AP Physics, but my friends in AP Physics A and me in junior year taking IB Physics, I remember talking to them, and it quickly became like really apparent what the difference was. In AP Physics A, I think, well, in case I'm using the wrong letter, I'm just going to say AP Physics.
Physics C.
C. Oops. Okay. So in AP Physics C, they really just go into like mechanics, like Newton stuff, like motion, stuff like that, right? But they go really in depth into it. Like they really drill down just into that one specific area of physics. But in IB physics, we go into that, but that's just topic A, from topic A to E. And I think that's what really excites me about IB physics is it's not just, kinematics, that's like mechanics, that kind of thing. Because I think if it was just that, I wouldn't really enjoy the class because it's all right. But what's really interesting to me about IB physics is it goes into all kinds of things. Like for topic B, it goes into like, why is my brain blanking now? Into like,
Thermodynamics.
Thermodynamics, yes.
Heat.
And like circuits, and I really like the circuits unit. So like there's electricity there. And then topic C goes into like wave mechanics. Topic D is like gravity and like fields and that kind of thing. And topic E, which we're starting now, well not starting, but we're like kind of like roughly like a third into now, is about like nuclear physics. Like, I think this is my favorite one so far. I really like this one. I've actually been doing the textbook readings for this topic, unlike the other ones. I think topic E is really interesting for me personally because I think nuclear physics is really interesting. It's not something I really want to go into, but it's something I've always been kind of interested in. So I think IB physics grants me the opportunity to kind of see all these different kinds of physics and really learn more about them. Because I mean, we're about to start quantum mechanics in IB physics. Like, I think that's really cool. And that's something you don't really get in like regular AP physics. I mean, regular AP physics is good too, if you really just want to go down to like mechanics. But I think IB physics is good if you're like me and you don't like really want to go into physics, but you're interested in it, and it really lets you explore a lot of different areas.
So one, I have 2 years with them. The AP Physics is 1 year. So I do get to go into those topics that maybe are not part of that curriculum. But if you couldn't tell, Aiden and me are like the same kind of nerdy. If you... Yes? So it does really depend on the course. Some of our IB classes are combined with the AP, and so it can be some of the bigger classes. The classes that are just the IB do tend to be a little bit smaller. We have a smaller cohort, and I think even if all of those classes aren't on the small side, the small classes are the ones that they really develop those relationships with each other, and then bring those into the classes that are the standard size AP/IB classes. So at Kennedy High School, we also have the KITE program, which is the Kennedy Institute of Technology and Engineering. And part of the IB program, one of the pathways for KITE is woven into the IB. So if you remember, even if you don't, like the group 6, you can take the computer science, and that computer science is part of the KITE program. The students with the electives or during their freshman and sophomore year can also take part of the engineering pathway. Aiden, you did the comp sci, right?
Yeah, yes. I was in IB Comp Sci SL. I wish I could have taken HL, but there wasn't space in my schedule. In SL, I can speak to what you learn in SL. So SL, you start by learning Java, programming language Java. There's this interactive course where you're actually coding along and you're learning like every single like component. And I think it's really useful because I have friends who have never coded before in their life. I mean, I was coding before IB Comp Sci, but you can go into Comp Sci not having any coding experience, and it's designed to help you, from the ground up with no experience at all. So, but I mean, if you're interested in it, then you might have experience, but even if you don't, that's fine. Then about halfway through, we get into our IA, our internal assessment. For the IA, we had to make a web application. So basically what our comp sci teacher, Mr. Gupton, will do is he's going to introduce you to the IA, and he's going to walk you through how to actually build and launch this entire like web app on your own. So he's going to introduce you to like all the IDEs, like the development environments that you use like in an industry. In our class right now, he teaches us using Spring. But that might change by the time you're in IB because tech kind of moves fast. But at the moment, that's what we do. And then we make that web app, and then we submit it to the IB. And then for the exam itself, it's a lot of programming concepts. Yeah, that's pretty much all I have to say. And HL, I know you go more into computer architecture, like stuff like, we briefly touch on it in SL, but in HL you go more into it with like, computer hardware and like going into like the CPU, like everything like that. You probably do more, but that's all I know about HL.
So when he's referring to SL and HL, just to remind you that SL is the 1-year class and the HL would be the 2-year class. So the option for the comp sci, you do have an option to choose that and do the 2-year comp sci class. That would be a completer pathway for the career pathway through the kite. And then there's also the engineering that we can work into your schedule, junior and senior, for your electives, but we would recommend that you do that engineering. If you want to do both legs of the pathway, the engineering can kind of be your freshman and sophomore, and then the computer science can be your junior and senior. So we do have students who do both. Our alumni back there, Adam Salam, he'll be available for questions. Cal State Fullerton, he's actually repping the AI kite pathway with his shirt, so he can answer some questions about that too.
Okay. Okay. I think it really depends on what you take your freshman, sophomore years. For me, I think the biggest switch when the moment where I felt the workload change the most was actually my sophomore year, which is kind of strange. But I'm sure most of you guys might be taking honors classes at your middle schools and stuff, and you're probably going to do that your freshman, sophomore years too to help you build up for IB. But I feel like when you start taking like your first college level course, like for me it was AP Euro in my sophomore year, that's when I really felt like the workload kind of switch. Like freshman year taking honors classes, it wasn't the same as middle school, but it felt kind of the same. Like you do get like homework every day, you do need to study a little bit, you have to study in advance for like a test, like just regular stuff like that. It felt doable. But when it came to taking that first AP class, like I was like, whoa, like this is a lot of content. Like textbooks, the font was this tiny, and I was like, oh, okay. So there's a lot more reading that you have to do, a lot more homework. And I guess because in my sophomore year I kind of took all of those classes, when it came to IB, like the workload wasn't that crazy. Like I was getting homework every day, and there was this expectation that you have to study hard for these tests to make sure you pass them. You have to really make sure you put in effort. I would say the biggest thing when it comes to workload for IB is going to be those bigger projects like your IAs. That's really going to be what really changes things for you, because homework, I'm sure all of you guys are used to having homework. But when it comes to like a big research project, like I'm going to use history as an example. Like we had to choose a historical topic, like any topic of our choice, but it was like right in the beginning of senior year, August. Like the first thing we got introduced to was, okay, you're starting your research project. Choose your topic and then write this essay. It was due like the first week of September. And I was like, oh my God, wow, that's fast. And so the turnaround on some of these things can be pretty quick. You really have to work every single day on certain things, like on top of homework. And when it comes to those internal assessments, I would say that's like the biggest switch when it comes to workload. You're just gonna have to use your resources a lot. You're really gonna have to go to those teacher office hours. You're really gonna have to set aside an hour every day to work on those things. And you can't put it off, because putting it off is probably the worst thing you can do. So I would say right now, like what you're doing right now in middle school and what you're gonna do in your freshman and sophomore year, that's gonna prepare you for the workload of IB. You do just have to get used to like this extra level of time management where you're gonna be doing big projects on top of your regular extracurriculars, your regular school and home life. You have to get ready for like an added layer of things to do, especially your EE, your CAS project. There's bigger projects involved in IB, and I think that's the biggest switch that you should watch out for.
So one more, and then in the interest of time, that will be our last question. They will be available in the lobby if you have specific questions.
One piece of advice I would give to you for the workload is, I think we touched on it briefly, but really playing to your strengths. For me, I'm not really a big math or like physics type of guy, so I didn't take Calculus BC. I'm in Calculus AB. So when you're choosing your classes, and like Sharina said also, your freshman and sophomore year classes will prepare you. So it won't be this huge drastic change like, oh, I don't understand anything in this classes. No, they teach you the things that you're gonna need to know as long as you pay attention, hopefully. But yeah, choose the classes that you know that you'll do better at. So you get to choose your higher level classes, which means the classes you will take for 2 years. And when you're choosing your higher level classes, you want to play to your strengths. So for me, I chose psychology and history, and English is required for everyone for HL. I didn't choose HL physics and HL math because I would have struggled a lot. So if you're scared about the workload, just remember to do what you like doing. And if you like history, take HL history. If you like psychology or film, do HL for that. And yeah, that's a piece of advice I would give you.
Sorry, I want to add a little bit. Procrastination is really, really bad. Some of my friends have this problem, and them going into junior year, I didn't have this problem, but them going into junior year and being a procrastinator, they definitely feel the workload a lot more because it just piles up. And if you're not consistent with your work effort, then they really feel the workload definitely increase. But for me, like everybody else, I didn't really feel it increase because I just remember to get things done early, get things done day by day by day.
Well, and I think just to go back to what Brandon said, he really, during football season, would look at his long-term projects and, your long-term project dates ahead of time, right? So if you know it's a band competition or a JROTC drill competition, you kind of look ahead and try to plan ahead. So these lovely students will be in the lobby. Adam Salam is our alumni here. Mr. Hernandez will be by those computers if you would like to file your transfer now. If not, remember it's through the Aries parent portal. I will be available for questions. Ms. Hilbanalis will be here. So thank you so much for coming. I would like to have a round of applause for our panel because they are high school students and I'm sure this was scary. Thank you very much.